7 months into the release of Overwatch 2, and it has been one hell of a ride. There have been both ups and downs, but more than ever is the negative vibe drowning out the progress that the team at Blizzard is making. It is clear that there is a trust issue. Let me explain. Hey guys, I'm Damesies from the Omnic Post. While I have not been posting consistent videos on YouTube about Overwatch for that long, I have been following and making content about the game for over 6 years now, mainly on Instagram. And I can tell you that those first few years were glorious. We consistently got new heroes, new maps, the events were surprising, there was a blossoming esports scene. There were also balancing issues back then, but and one would be inclined to say that that has changed. But I think it actually has not. Well, that's not true. During the Dark Ages, like I called them, which was the period between the announcement of Overwatch 2 back in 2019 and the actual release, well, late last year, and the actual release in October 2022, it was very different. It was a downward spiral of fewer content and fewer news updates. I still get twitchy when I think back of those days. See? Well, frick. Now things got better with the release, but the rocky start, the content that was cut, the fact that we went from free cosmetics to very expensive skins, the lack of proper communication. Let's just say that the dark clouds had not cleared at that point. But for some of us it was a relief that finally something was happening, while it was the final nail in the coffin for some others. But at the start of 2023 there was a fresh breeze coming out of Team 4. A new tone of voice, a single beam of light that showed us the path forward. Communications picked up, some fun and quirky events were added. There were new maps, there were new heroes. They showed us that they had been listening to us, and they gave us the changes that we had been asking for a long time. Some of them were old grievances, but they also addressed concerns about the monetization. And they did so with both solutions and sometimes a reasonable explanation. Well, to a certain extent. Because on one end, haters gonna hate, and second, well, some of us don't like lining the pockets of Bobby Kotick and all of those shareholders. We would rather see everything reinvested in the game. But hey, we've talked plenty about that in previous videos. But as I said, things were changing. But it wasn't enough to scare away that sense of doubt that was lingering throughout the community. I'm not a mechanic, but it feels like someone is trying to tune the car. They're replacing the plugs, they're leveling out the pistons, they put in some new oil. But when they turn that key, the engine just won't start. It gets really close, it sounds hopeful, but then it just dies off again. And in the last few weeks they have gotten a lot quieter again. Now that might be because of internal circumstances that we discussed in previous videos, or they might be preparing for something really big. I really hope it's going to be the second one. On the other hand, Season 4 has not been revving that engine as much as I had hoped. The new hero had some issues. There were a lot of bugs. And Star Watch, well, I did a full review earlier this week, go check it out. The thing is, they are clearly trying. And in truth, what they are offering right now is better than what we had in Overwatch 1. And I do know that not everybody is going to agree on that. But on paper, apart from all our emotional attachments, they are pushing out more content, like cosmetics, heroes, maps. They push out more updates and they're working a lot more on the systems than they did in Overwatch 1. But why doesn't it feel that way? Because I feel the same. Well, in my opinion, it comes down to what I mentioned earlier. Trust. Just before we entered those dark ages I was talking about earlier, we already noticed that there was a slowdown in the content. We noticed that they were distracted by something else. That got us guessing that they were going to announce Overwatch 2, which they did. I basically used the same technique that my girlfriend does when she notices I'm not listening to her. Always very effective. But then they announced Overwatch 2, and that hype meter just bumped up. But it also kicked off the Dark Ages, and things started slowing down. We got a few new heroes, a few new maps, and over those years that engine started to stall. I'm really kinda stuck in this whole engine thing, clearly. But the worst thing was that they didn't even communicate about what was happening. Now to be honest, Jeff Kaplan had warned us at BlizzCon that they were going to go dark. But that darkness lasted way too long. I mean, we all came out of there kinda looking pale and being grumpy. We were basically Gollum. But there were a few peaks, moments where they invited content creators and those content creators came back all hyped up. Yeah, that didn't last long. And it was missing a lot of stuff that they promised us, including the biggest selling point of Overwatch 2, PvE. Yeah, there I am again, hitting that PvE drum. Haha. But seriously, cutting PvE has been one of the biggest causes of that distrust, no matter if it was necessary at the time or not. And sure, if they had released the perfect PvP fallout for Overwatch 1 at that time, with no server issues, with perfect matchmaking, with heroes that impressed everybody, events that had no flaws, and overall, no bugs, things could have been different. But hey, if my aunt had wheels, she would be in an ice cream van. Yeah, I keep saying that, but I have no idea what it means. Let's just say that every day that we don't see what was promised to us back in 2019, trust slowly drains out of this huge imaginary barrel. And for those that are wondering, it's made out of plastic and it's blue. With every single season, with every single hero they release, with every event, that barrel gets replenished to a certain extent. But after all those years of waiting, that barrel is so empty that the impact of those replenishments is negligible. Because a part of the community is very cynical at this point. And because another part of the community projects all their expectations and all their hopes and dreams on whatever they release. Which, to be honest, is our own fault. The only thing that can fill that barrel all the way to the brim, the edge, I don't know what to call it, the top of the barrel, is a PvE release that blows us all away. That has us slamming our desks in joy. If they can top off the barrel with that release, everything else is going to follow. We just need to see that Overwatch is going to rise to the top again. That it's going to be that game that we loved all those years ago. In a different way, but that is fine. And we can work on the rest. This is starting to sound like relationship therapy. But it is. It kinda is. So in other words, we do not need half-assed releases. No announcements of announcements. We need them to step up and deliver. And I might sound a little harsh here, but I do believe they can do it. I believe in that team and that they have potential. That they already showed a lot of potential and did some great things already. The only thing I'm worried about is that the circumstances at Blizzard might stop them from reaching that potential. But on the other hand, Diablo 4. Come on. What that team has done with that game, how they released an impressive beta and in just a few weeks took all of the feedback that everybody gave them and made it even better. I'm actually going to be playing the last beta that they're doing before release next week. I can't wait. And then there's World of Warcraft. The state of the game right now is pretty good. I've been hearing some good things. I'm even considering to start playing again, if I find the time. How many hours of sleep would I need? I don't know. 2? None? But seriously, if those teams can get me and millions of other players hyped up like this, Team 4 can easily do it. Just win back our trust. Please. Now tell me, would a perfect PvE release get you back on board? Or is this something else you need? That is not loot boxes. Let me know in the comments. Join me during my streams on twitch.tv/DamesIsTV and make sure to follow for more updates on Overwatch.